Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, built for real estate professionals that want to work less, earn more, and make an impact in their community. For information on how you can become part of the estate professionals community, visit probatemastery.com. Good seeing everybody. This is the Estate Professionals Mastermind weekly coaching call. For anyone that's watching this after the fact, maybe on YouTube or listening via podcast, we do this every single Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time out east. So if you're not on Eastern time, do the math and figure out what time you want to jump in. You get to ask your questions. We share best tips and strategies, and then we take the recording and we put it onto the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast. We also put it onto the Probate Mastery YouTube channel. So anyone that wants to go back and maybe you heard something you want to listen to again, you can go to one of those two platforms and watch or listen again. Or you can go back through past calls and get to hear what we've talked about on previous calls. I know, Kevin, you wanted to start with a question, so let's go ahead and have you unmute yourself. What do you have today?
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Just question about novation versus wholetail. Are they one and the same, or what's the difference? I think a couple of weeks ago you would touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to be quite comparable. So for those of you that are new here, this is kind of all things estate and probate related in the real estate space. So we're going to deal with topics on everything from how to get more listings in the space, how to offer a lot of value to people even if they're not ready to talk about real estate yet. We talk about investing, so a bunch of different things, and that is a perfect fit for Kevin's question. So novation versus wholetail, they're somewhat comparable. So essentially a novation is generally going to be better for someone with a real estate license. Not exclusively. If people here don't have a real estate license, you can still do a novation, but you're going to need to involve a real estate agent in your deal. Novation is essentially where you write a contract with a purchase agreement with the family that's selling the property. So you're signing an agreement, you're coming to an agreement on terms. You're also coming to an agreement that if you find a buyer that is at a higher price on your from your purchase agreement, that they will accept that buyer and let you out of your contract. So let's just pretend for easy math that I write a contract on your property for $100,000. And I sign a novation agreement that essentially says I can go market your property and I can try to find a buyer at a higher price from $100,000. And if and when I do, you're going to let me out of my contract and you're going to take that new buyer in my place. So I'm not doing like a wholesaler would with the novation where I'm selling my paper. I'm legitimately reselling the property. So to be able to market a property and try to get a higher price than your contract price, you guys can see why it would be beneficial to have a real estate license, at least be able to market the property, the home in the MLS. If you're an investor, work with a listing agent that can list that property in the MLS. The seller needs to know what's happening. They need to know that I can close, I have the money to close on this deal, but I plan to go find another buyer before I close. Okay, and I plan to find a buyer at a higher price. And a lot of times what people that do novations are going to do is they're going to work out some kind of a split with the current owner and say, if I get a buyer at a higher price, we're going to split the proceeds 80-20, 50-50, 70-30, whatever agreement you work out. You don't have to do a split at all. You could say, hey, $100,000, I'll close in 60 days or less. And if I haven't closed in 60 days, or if I haven't found a new buyer in 60 days, I'm going to close. If I have found a new buyer in 60 days, as long as they can follow the same closing schedule, you'll take their contract. And if they pay $120,000 in their contract, I get a certain percentage of the spread, you get a certain percentage of the spread. So that's a novation. A wholetail is where you close. So if I was wholetailing a property, I'm going to write a contract. Let's say it's $100,000. I write a contract. I put a closing time frame on there. I get permission from the current owner to market the property. I'm not planning on selling my contract. I'm not planning on reselling the property or anything like that. I'm going to close. But what I'd like to do is knowing that I have a closing on such and such a date, I'd like to line my new buyer up before closing. That way, I don't own that property myself for very long. So let's say I write a contract, $100,000, closing on June 30th, and I get permission from the seller to market and show the property, and I get a new buyer at 120,000. And I know these numbers are just laughable to some of you in your market. You can do this on $1 million properties too. So I get a new buyer at 120,000, and that buyer is lined up to close on July 2nd. So I only own the property for 2 days. I'm closing on the 30th. On the 2nd, I'm reselling, I'm reclosing on the property and getting it out of my name, and I'm taking the whole spread, the proceeds from that sale. So a wholetail, you are closing, you're reselling the property, but ideally you're finding your buyer, you're doing your marketing and finding your future buyer before you've had to go to closing yourself. Okay, so novation, you find a new buyer, they replace their contract replaces your contract. A wholetail, you find your new buyer, they write a contract with you, you close, and then you turn around really quickly and reclose with the future buyer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Uh,
Perfect.
Great.
Obviously,
Thank
there's
you.
going to be some wholesalers here as well. Anyone that's not familiar with wholesaling, bunch of groups that talk about that. Essentially, that's going to be a where you sell your paper. You write a contract with a seller, and then you go out and try to replace yourself. But instead of selling the house, you're selling your contract. You're saying, "I've got this contract for 100,000, and the name it says Bruce Hill is closing and or assigns. If you want to take my place in this contract that I have, pay me 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and I'll put your name on this contract that's already been agreed to." So those are kind of some traditional methods that investors use. Personally, as an agent who 90% of my business is brokerage-based business where I'm listing properties, I really, really like wholetailing. I'll write a contract with someone, have the ability and means to close. I'll write a contract to close with them, get a closing date, and then I'll go out and market the property just like I would have anyway. It gives a lot of sellers the security that they know that I'm gonna close. So I'll go to a seller again as an agent, and I'll say, look, I could list your property for 120,000 and you'll likely net somewhere around 105,000. I could also write you a contract with my cash for 95,000 and we'll close on such and such a date. Which option do you want to go with? And most sellers, the way that I present it, say, hey, we want to list, we want to make the extra money. But some sellers go, I'm done with it. I'm going to take your lower contract and I really don't care. As long as I can close and get out of the house now, I'll take the lower contract. So that's one of the ways that I get wholesale deals fairly frequently, as long as the seller knows that I do plan to market and resell the property. I got to make sure, especially those of us with the license, we got to make sure that we're going through a disclosure process and we're not blindsiding sellers with something that they were unaware we were going to do. James, what do you have?
Hey, Bruce. What's the old radio line? First time or long time listener, first time caller, that whole
Great.
thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good morning. So happy to be here. But kind of a newbie question. I love your binary question. That just always stuck with me, where it just kind of really opens things up. But you make it definitely more of a long-term process, as opposed to trying to like hammer on them and all that stuff. So I really appreciated that. But it would seem to me then that like the important thing would be the follow-up resources that you send to them, right? Like if I heard you say a couple times that like your goal is to stand out from the 27 other people that are in their inbox and calling them every day. So it seemed to me that the quality of the resources would be really important. So not to spill all the secrets or whatever, but
Yeah,
do you have some go-to resources that you send that you could kind of,
sure.
at least get the gears going in my
Yep.
head here? Yeah.
So, let me just kind of take about two steps backward for those of you that have no idea what James is talking about. So he started with a binary question. When I'm prospecting, or even on my appointments, if I'm having a dialogue with a family or a potential future client, um, instead of asking singular questions, either yes, no, or open-ended questions, I normally want to be in total control of the response that they give. And what I've found is I really disarm people when I give them two options as a part of my question. So the question that I believe James is referring to is going to be the binary question after I've opened a call of saying, do you have everything handled, or is there anything that I can do for you? Connecting some dots here. So, James, if it's a different binary question, let me know. Okay. So, that do you have everything handled, or is there anything I can take off your plate? Now, a ton of people are going to say, we've got it all handled. They don't know me. I don't know them. They don't want to be sold. They're normally going to take the objection route. We've got it handled. So, what have I done with that? I've now made them feel comfortable saying, no, we don't need anything. I've given them the option of saying, we've got things handled. We don't need anything. I've also, when they give me that response, it's no longer a no based, rejection based response. Now it's a yes based response. So it's a yes, we have it all handled. And that it takes the venom out of the objection that they kind of wanted to give a cold prospector anyway. It gives me the chance to jump straight to offering some resources. I'll say something like, perfect, James, I really appreciate the time. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me send you a packet with some resources, and I want you to just feel free to give me a call if anything ever comes up, if you ever need anything. Is that fair? And practically, when I use it that way, every single person that I got on the phone with that said, I don't need anything, I have everything handled, they practically all say, yes, you can send me the resources. Okay, if I use it accurately. So what do I send in resources? Now, this is where I'm gonna sort of show you guys how deep you can go with this, and I'm going to keep it somewhat shallow and just give you some ideas. So in Probate Mastery, we talk a little bit more about those resources. If you have not taken Probate Mastery, that's our certification course. We give you some actual templates for some resources, some mailers, things like that. We are retooling and relaunching a group coaching program within the next couple of weeks where we actually design it and template it and give it to you. Where all this stuff that I'm going to kind of describe at a 30,000-foot level is going to be done with you in group coaching. So anyone that wants more detail on this stuff from what I'm giving you now, you might want to go book a discovery call or a free coaching call on the homepage of probatemastery.com. And Lou, our course advisor, can lay out what group coaching is going to look like. It's going to be a 12-week program with about 24 different workshop sessions, part of it, and really designing everything with you guys. So what are we going to put? We've had a conversation with someone. They said, yes, I'm going to sell a house, send me some stuff, or I don't know if I'm going to sell a house, send me some stuff, or we don't need anything right now, but yes, you can send the resources. Any of those are reasonable expected responses from people we've prospected. So what do I send in the resources? First thing I want to do is recognize what my competitors are doing. My competitors, probably don't have a follow-up mail package. So most of my competitors that get those responses aren't going to have anything at all. If they do have something, it's normally going to start with a follow-up email, which is great. I want you guys having an email that you can send out, but that's not going to help us stand out a whole lot. Maybe you just send a letter, a follow-up letter. You're sending a follow-up letter, you're already going to be better than 95% of your competitors, but you're really not going to stand out. You're not going to make it where you're a no-brainer. So think of it like this. What can I send, and how valuable do I need to be to make it where they really don't have a choice except for to use me, or at minimum, see what kind of price I can get. At minimum, they don't have a choice. So I'm gonna put in at least that first package that I send out. I'm gonna probably put a brochure, a cover. Let's start with a cover letter. So I'll put a cover letter saying, "Hey, great to speak with you. This is why I'm sending it. This is an overview of what I do." So a little cover letter. Then I'm gonna pop a brochure in there. For those of you that don't have a trifold brochure, we design it with you in the group coaching that's coming up. We also you work very closely with all the leads, the probate lead company. All the leads has brochures and letter templates for you over there as well. So if you guys don't have one, I'd recommend checking all the leads out at alltheleads.com. We're not directly affiliated, but we just work reasonably well together. They're a good for brochures. You could design your own brochure. We also suggest putting a checklist in. So go through and figure out what kind of timeline and checklist you might be able to put together and drop one in there. If you have a list of vendors that you recommend, you could do a vendor flyer or a vendor brochure. I've seen that anywhere from 1 page to 4 or 5 pages. I like the 4 or 5 page vendor brochures and flyers or booklets. I've actually seen full books, a little bit harder to design. All right, but I've seen full books that you can send out as well. What else? Probate FAQs. Probate FAQs. You could put a CMA in if you're a real estate agent. You could put a seller option sheet in it where you lay out 2 or 3 or 4 options for how they could sell assets. You could put things in there on selling personal property, vehicles, art, furniture, things like that. So just kind of think philosophically of what could I put in here that makes me extremely valuable and stand out above my competition. There's probably dozens of other things that you could put in that I won't go into, and there's things that I haven't even designed yet. But I'm always thinking, okay, what else could I add? Or even if I don't add it to the first package, what could I send in subsequent follow-up mail pieces that make me stand out more than just a, hey, I want to buy your house letter or email from a competitor? Okay. All right. Cool.
And
Does that help?
so it totally helps. It kind of opens up this other orbit like in my brain. But like I guess the main question then is like, does everybody get this then? It's like you had a conversation and you get like the yeah, you just send it to me. Or the, oh yeah, no, that sounds great. That, you know what I mean? Like there's differences, and it's money at the end of the day, right? Like who gets this huge sounding package, right? Or
Yeah.
who doesn't? Like, is it just a personal kind of like vetting process?
Yeah. It's going to be a decision that you make based on several different factors. So the first thing is I'm recognizing on the phone what sort of response they're giving me. Is it a let me say yes so that you leave me alone response? Or is it a I'm kind of interested in this response? It's very rarely that people go, this is so interesting. I would love that. It's kind of rare. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times it's the brush off. How they respond to my offer to send them a package dictates whether I'm going to go deeper on the call or not. Okay. If I feel that there's a little bit of openness and we've got a little bit of rapport going, I'm going to try to shift the tone of the conversation toward assets. Okay. If I can tell that they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm really busy. Yeah, go ahead and send it to me. I'll call you if I need anything.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but I'm not really gonna push to shift. I'm not gonna damage what little rapport I might have by trying to talk about real estate right there. So if I feel I can bring up assets and real estate on the call, I'm gonna find out if there's property and what their plans are. And if there is property and I get the sense that there could be a sale coming up, then I'm sending a package all day, every day. Okay. If I get the sense that no, we're going to hold on to that forever, I'm going to send an email.
I'll get it from Publix or
Yeah. So
Costco.
I'm just going to do email if I get the sense that there's really no real estate deal here, or maybe a letter.
Oh,
I don't need to stand out so much if there's nothing there.
that makes sense.
Now, if they're brushing me off and I go, I think I better not push on real estate right now, I just jump into tax records or homes.com or Propelio or wherever you do your searching for real estate. And I'm just popping in the decedent's last known address to see who owns it and who lives there.
Mm,
I've found I used to do this and suggest Propelio for this, which is some skip tracing software that I actually do like and do periodically use sometimes. And I would do that mainly because not everyone has quick and easy access to GIS or tax records. Now I've found that homes.com, since they've been rebranded and bought by, well, not rebranded, bought by, I think they're owned by CoStar. Someone correct me if I messed that up. They have shifted over to more of a data platform where they're more listing agent centric and they show you the current owner record for free. So
mm,
if I know decedent lived at 123 Main Street and the person I talked to said, yeah, 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 send me the package, let me go. And I don't want to push. Okay, I got permission to send them a package, whether they mean it or not.
mm,
I'll just go pop that address into homes.com and I'll look and see who the owner of record is and who else might be on title. And I make my decision of what I send based on what I see there. And
mm,
that's really good for, especially for those of us that are maybe not real estate agents, might not have realist tied to your MLS, something like that. If you have that, you'll probably see more in your tax records or with realist if you have access to that. But if you
mm.
don't, homes.com is quick and easy and
Mm,
free. So it's
perfect.
a great place to just within 5 seconds see if the property is still in the estate. If I see that I talked to Mrs. Smith and it was likely Mr. Smith, the husband that passed away, I might not pile a bunch of real estate stuff in what I send.
Mm,
Okay, I might, but I might not. So I really base that on the feel that I get out of the conversation or what I can see in public records if I just wasn't getting a good feel. Do I think that there's going to be a house sale is how I make that determination. Do I think that in the next year this house is going to move? If I think yes, I'm going all out.
mm,
I'm going to spend some money and time on that person to convince them that I far exceed the skill that anybody else has.
mm.
And you can't convince them that you far exceed your competitor's skill by sending a silly letter or an email. And I'm not saying don't send letters and emails. I'm saying some of your competitors are going to do that as well. And I want to make it where it's kind of a no-brainer choice for them to call me back.
I, that's awesome. I'll leave you alone. How's that?
Cool. Great questions, man.
No,
I love it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much, though. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm butting in here with a quick ask. If you're getting value out of this coaching today, I want to invite you to check out my Probate Mastery trainings over at www.probatemastery.com. Probate Mastery is for you if you're an agent or an investor that wants to work with motivated sellers that have inherited real estate that they don't need and in many cases can't afford. These sellers are more appreciative, willing to trust your expertise, and less likely to nickel and dime you over commission or price. Why is that? They're often in the middle of a complex probate or an estate administration process, and this means that real estate is very often a burden on them, and they simply need the help. Inside of Probate Mastery, I teach you exactly where to source your leads, how to establish value, and offer your service in a way that quickly makes you, as the professional, your market's expert in the probate space. If you want to know a little bit more, go over to www.probatemastery.com. hope to see you guys inside of the community. Thanks.
I'm a broker and I'm also an investor. So I say I'm an investor first and I'm a broker second. I'm doing like today in just a few minutes, one of mine is closing and it's probate and it's been one from hell. Like we've been working on this one for quite a while. I'm on the buyer's side, not the seller side, but they told us like 3 days ago or 4 days ago that it was in foreclosure. That was when they were running the title. So we've managed to save it. And despite everything that's happened so far, we're closing in just a few minutes. The lawyers are going to go to their job and get papers signed for them. But my question is, I buy a lot of houses subject to. Do you do subject-tos with your probates? I mean, I've done a couple of them subject to, but I'm just kind of curious on some ideas. One of the right down the street from my house, one went into foreclosure and it's a probate and somebody's ended up buying it and I think they're paying cash, but do you do them? Do you do
I dabble with them. So personally, my business was always just so much heavier on the brokerage listing side. Not for any other reason than the market that I'm in. Most people want a lot for their properties. They want a max that's a kind of a highly educated area with people that know values and a lot of comps as well. So the average neighborhood here, it's quite easy to comp a house. If I go on Zillow, it's probably going to be really close. Why? Because there's 10 other houses that look exactly like it that just sold. So that tends to shift my business more into listing than anything else, partially because of the market. When I go on appointments, I generally present 2 or 3 options. Now I have 5 or 6 options in my tool belt, but I present 2 or 3. I present the listing option. I present a cash purchase option. Most of the time, unless the house needs a good substantial amount of work, most of the time my cash purchase option, I plan on wholetailing. So I'm not going 65, 70% of market value. I'm going 85% of market value to beat out other investors because it probably doesn't need much work. Okay. And then the third is I'm presenting an owner finance. And the owner finance here in my market, I don't get a ton of people that do it. Each one of those 3 different options that I gave you have, it's kind of like a root system underneath. I don't know which branch I'm going to take until they pick the overall theme of the way they want to work with me. So if they want to work with me on a listing and they say, hey, we want market value listing, then I'll say, do we want to go aggressively low, like 95% of market value and get a whole bunch of offers and sell in a day or two? Or do we want to go 100% of market value, which might take 35 days in this market, and you might end up reducing? So I give them two sub options. If they say we want to do owner financing, then the 2 sub options there are, do you have a mortgage or is there no mortgage? If they don't have a mortgage, then it's traditional owner finance. If there's a mortgage, then I'll lay out a subject to option for them. Subject to, I've also been a little bit gun shy on subject twos, mostly because I think that the way that the gurus teach it is going to lead some people to get in trouble someday. Okay.
Yeah, I agree on that one. We ours and trust.
Yeah. The way, and there are, for those of you that don't know the gurus, I am not going to name names, but there are gurus out there that teach you how to do subject to. And subject to, just for the people that don't know, is going to be where there's an existing mortgage on a property, you are owner financing it, and you essentially say to the seller, hey, I'm going to pay the mortgage and I'm going to give you the excess. So if I'm paying $2,000 a month for your house, and your current mortgage is $1,000 a month, I'll send your mortgage company $1,000 and I'll give you $1,000. And that's extremely rough way to explain it. It's more detailed than that. The problem is most banks can call the note due if they realize that you've done this. And so there's going to be some people that get themselves in trouble. Um, so real subject to, you've got to move the property into a land trust. You should get a third party servicer, and you should write the contract in a way that if you don't make a payment, it's not going to trigger a foreclosure process. They're going to be able to kick you out of your beneficiary role in the trust. So there's ways to do it that are extremely safe. The way that it's taught most of the time brings on too much risk for me. Okay, for me. Um, I just kind of have poked holes in a lot of the ways that people are teaching subject to, and they're making a lot of money with subject-tos. Okay. Um, but it's more risk than I want to take on unless you do it the way I just kind of described. And Camille, I'm assuming you're doing it quite similar.
Yeah, the P guy, it's like when we call about houses and stuff, I'm hearing a lot of agents going that they have the little wholesalers that don't have money, don't know what they're doing subject twos, and they don't have the money for it, and they'll tie them up. We've done, I mean, I've looked at a bunch this week and last week on trying to buy some. It's interesting, but it just always seemed with me, and the reason I didn't really develop and go more into probate is that the heirs always seem to want all of it. My subject twos, if I had to put $100,000 down and take over a mortgage that's been being paid on for 10 years, heck, I'm going to definitely try for that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel that this subject twos could be paired quite nicely with a credit stacking plan. We're getting ridiculously advanced here for some of you all, and I'm just if we're way over your head right now, I apologize, but I think that this is worth noting for people that are interested in subject to. So, Camille, you just said if I have to put 100,000 down to kind of takes care of someone's mortgage, and the average person here is going, "Hey, I don't have 50,000 or 100,000 to put down." I've seen some folks and been studying on credit stacking strategies where you fund your down payments on investments like this with low or no interest credit cards. And then if you're flipping, you flip the property before that would ever come due. So there's a lot of unique and creative ways to invest in real estate, and this is just one of them. And I really like it if done right. Camille, anything else?
No, I'm excited. I'm going to look into the coaching stuff. I have my all the leads. I did their website, so I have their website. I mean, we've been doing this for 25 years, so we've been doing it a while, but I'm starting to really get into those. But I'm seeing a lot of them that the heirs just don't have the money to make payments, and they're going into foreclosure.
Yeah.
So those are the ones I'm trying to kind of actively go for.
Yeah. So what we need to do, and this is going to really vary by market and how much appreciation there was in different markets, how long the average decedent owned the property in your market. So it can really change from market to market. But and let's take my area for example. 10% of 10% of those that file probate and have a house. So file probate and have to have a house. We got to start with that set of filters that connect. About 10% have a mortgage that also does not have enough money, liquid cash in the estate to pay the mortgage. And those folks are highly motivated to move very quickly. And I want everyone to recognize that you can target that 10%. It might be 20% of your list in your market. It might be 2% of the list in your market. But you can target them directly and aggressively because they're going to move very fast. Either that or they're going to just let it go into foreclosure. And that sometimes happens. I do want you recognizing that if that's the only segment of your probate list that you're targeting, you're going to be targeting them with everybody else that's just, hey, I want to buy your house. So it's harder to stand out in the short run than it is in the long run. So that's why in my business, I generally target the people who have a house that's free and clear or a house that has boatloads of equity that people don't want to lose, because those are the properties that families are not making decisions in month one and month two. If I can catch the family that's not making a month one decision, I'm going to win that business with my follow up plan. I've got a 6 or an 8 month runway to, just like James and I were talking about earlier, I've got that 6 to 8 month runway to be the only person that they would ever think about because nobody else matches my marketing and follow up. Nobody else is going to look as credible. They're going to see my name everywhere when they're not in a position to have to sell today. They're going to sell. I kind of like the families that are in a really strong financial position and aren't going to sell today. Now, that's my way. You guys, within the last couple of weeks, was it last week David was on here? David does um, no equity, recent purchasers, out of town personal representatives with a mortgage. Like that's his filter set is if you are out of town or out of state personal representative, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get in town. There's a mortgage. It's an older house. He puts things together that stack together are almost surefire. You're going to sell a house right now filters and goes after them, and it's great. The only thing I want you guys to recognize is other people are applying those filters and you haven't had a chance yet to separate yourself from the competition. You're just another name. So if you get the appointment, you're going to be competing with 5 or 6 people, and your strategy on appointments better be pretty good. David's is exceptional. He gets it. There's David.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I probably added a little bit to the filters that you do, but I do want it
Oh, we're
to be
getting there.
known
Yeah.
that adding filters to your list to identify kind of a high likelihood and degree of urgency that people have is an amazing strategy. And when you're really good on your appointments, who cares if other people are filtering down that tight? Who cares?
Yeah, and the
Okay.
one thing we discovered on our list, Bruce, this week is I'll try to get the camera, I'm driving, but the Pro C ones, the ones without attorneys. So on my list, I could see a blank for the attorney, but it's still a filing. So it's usually a small estate affidavit or and they're filing it for themselves. So
Yep.
it either means they have a small estate, like a vehicle to transfer, or they're doing it themselves. So we're going to separate that criteria now, and it's about 250 out of 11,000 records. So
Yeah.
those
Yep.
letters are just more defined when they receive it.
You know what's fun is trying to identify what people like David just described are thinking about doing next. So let's go back to the list that I just described a little bit ago that probably isn't going to have an urgency to sell in the next 6 months, and I like them. I have an urgency not to present a full listing plan to them and get their house on the market today. I have an urgency to start a conversation today. Okay, I know it might be a little while before real estate decisions are made. I already know what that decision is going to be. Okay, there's a house that they don't live in that they've inherited. That house is going to be sold 9 times out of 10. So I know the decision that they're going to make before they know the decision they're going to make. All right, so it doesn't matter to me if they say, hey, it's too early. We haven't talked about that. We don't know yet. That doesn't matter to me. I know that they're going to sell. So what's going to start the conversation early? Maybe they have to clean the property out. Maybe they have a car. This is a big one. Maybe they have a car. And a lot of people might have a car payment, but no house payment. It's very interesting how many people you see with a mortgage or no mortgage. They've paid the house off, but they're driving a car that they're making a payment on. Well, what do you think they're going to be making decisions on today? The car. Am I in necessarily the car buying business? No, I'm in a conversation starting business. And that's what I want everyone here to recognize. You're in the business of starting conversations. And whatever you can offer that strikes up a dialogue, you need to do it. If it means that you need to occasionally buy a car or have a car buyer on your list, if you need to have an estate sale company or a clean out crew or a landscaper or a locksmith on the list, whatever you need to offer that strikes up that conversation, once the conversation's going, you should comfortably be able to establish rapport and move it into a low pressure real estate dialogue. So that's what I want everyone here to recognize is you're in the conversation starting business. That's it. What's it going to take to strike up a conversation? Camille, why was your purchase so difficult? Is it because it went into foreclosure?
Well, the first thing was it was 3 heirs, one which is real responsive, the other two that were hard to get a hold of. The house needed a lot of work. They put a new roof on it. They put a new air conditioner on it, and we also got them to replace the old carpet with floors, new vinyl floors. So they waited until the last minute to get that done because they didn't have the money to do it. And then on top of that, all of a sudden at the last moment, they popped up and said, oh my gosh, it's in foreclosure. And so the title company that we were using, they didn't want to do anything about the foreclosure. They didn't want to contact the bank or the lawyers or anything. And the other guy, the realtor on the other side was like, all they've got to do is call. And I'm like, yeah, that's all they've got to do, but I can't get them to do it. So we had to move the closing to a different title company, actually an attorney firm that ended up doing it. And we couldn't get them to understand that once it goes into foreclosure and the attorneys are involved, that the bank, once this lives pendants and stuff, the bank is the one that determines whether you can sell it. You have to ask permission of them. It's not the sellers anymore, the heirs anymore. So we had to get the bank's permission plus what all the bank fees, the attorney fees, their amount to see if it would work for what we'd done. And so it was just a big drag out. And then the bank, the lender that my clients were using, waited till the last minute to ask questions that they should have asked like way back for documentation. And then the final straw today was one of the sellers, one of the heirs, the notary went to him. We had a mobile notary, went to him, and he doesn't have a driver's license. He didn't have any ID. So
Great.
we had to go back to the bank and say, look, he doesn't have ID. So technically, in just a few minutes, my sellers are signing. The attorney's gone to both of their jobs. My buyers are signing. They wired the money over to the bank, but the seller that didn't have his ID is going in the morning and getting a new ID, and then they'll be able to finish up the paperwork and we'll be able to finally close the car. But we've done
These are fun.
on it. Yeah, it's been like and it wasn't even like it was that much money. I said by the time I got finished with it, I made $1 an hour off of it because it's like, and I even bought him a refrigerator because there was a refrigerator in the house. So I bought my buyers a refrigerator. But the good thing was that his parents said, hey, we want a house here too. So they just bought a house and it closed on Monday, and it was like there was nothing. It was like the smoothest closing I've had. So I made my money there to make up for the fact that I worked my butt off on this one. I mean, it's been fair to close.
Some of the best clients that I have had, easiest, where I made the most money in the shortest, easiest amount of time, came as a result of doing a nightmare transaction with someone else that they loved me and referred me. So sometimes we have those those disasters,
Oh,
those night.
I'm already their mother. Her mother and father call me her Florida mom now. So
Love it.
I even babysat their dogs for them. So I've
Amazing.
done a lot for them, but and they've referred me. So they've got a good friend base here. So I had sold their property and they left Florida and went up north and they absolutely hated it. So they immediately came back down and were like, we need a house. Well, our market is like if you find something under $200,000, it's not livable. Actually, you need to be about the 215 range to get a little tiny small
Hmm.
house. But I couldn't find anything. I could not find anything for them. And we finally found this one, but it needed a roof and a HVAC. So
Yeah.
it's been a work in progress, but I'm proud to say that the beast is going to be done tomorrow.
Well,
Money is
congratulations.
over to the bank. So,
Yep.
but it's
Let's.
see some sad situations because we went and looked at one a couple of weeks ago that the daughter got killed and so did her daughter, and the little boy did survived, and now the grandmother has that, and that
Wow.
house is a mess. I'm still wanting to go back to it, see
Yeah.
what we can do.
Yeah. Well, let's jump over to James. James, and then Jay. And I have a feeling that the other person with a J that has their hand up, I think I know who you are. I'm pretty sure your Zoom always defaults to Jay, and I can't remember your first name. So change your name in a minute so I know who to call on. But James Lee first.
Thanks again, Bruce. So, what you and David were talking about, it's resonating. So if you're filtering your list and you have, like a decent probate list, but you see that the PR's address is the same as the decedent's, how
Hmm.
much priority are you giving to those or deprioritizing? Do you know what I mean? If you're like, this guy lives in the house where, the person passed away. So what does that mean to you? Do you do something, you know what I mean, as a result of seeing that data, or do you just kind of treat everyone the same?
Yeah. I used to treat everyone the same, and I suggest that the majority of you guys treat everyone the same. So for most of you, you're going to treat everyone the same. Take your entire list and call market to all of them.
Okay.
As as you get good and as your pipeline fills up, or if you don't have the time or the money to go after everyone. So let's say you're starting out and you don't have the time or the money. Okay, filter your list. Get it down to only the most likely, fastest moving prospects that there are. If you have the time and the money and your pipeline is not full, go after everyone. Okay.
Mhm.
You have the time and money and your pipeline fills up. You put 50 people in your pipeline that you know are going to sell at some point. Now you can start to filter that list down a lot tighter because you know that you've got this big pipeline that you're going to be taking care of. So it kind of depends on where you're starting. When I put 50, 60, 70 people in a pipeline and I'm spending money and time on that pipeline, I'm definitely not spending a lot of time on my cold list because my pipeline is big.
Mm.
And because I still want to keep the cold list going, I just don't have enough time to give to that cold list. Now I really start to tighten it down.
Mm.
So first filter that you guys are going to tighten down to is going to be no real estate. 30% of those in probate aren't going to have any easily identifiable real estate. And I'm not saying there isn't real estate. It's just not so easy to identify. It might be hidden, might be in a trust. It could be a piece of land somewhere outside of the county. So it's just not so easy to identify. So I'm going to look to scrub that 30% out first with my first filter. Second filter that I might add on later is going to be PR with the same address as the decedent. Doesn't mean that it's a
Oh.
surviving spouse. Some of my best clients have been surviving spouses. Some of my best clients have been PRs with the same address as the decedent. Nephews, nieces, children, parents moved in to take care of someone that was sick. Doesn't mean that it's not going to sell, but if I'm getting tight on money and time, I might scrub them out as well because I know that they're a little less likely to sell from the data than the decedent that passed away with no one living in the house.
Hmm.
Okay. The
Yeah.
next filter that I might add after that is going to be the filter that David adds, and that's going to be I want to partition off everyone who has a vacant house and the PR is out of the area. So vacant house, PR is
Hmm.
out of the area. I don't, unless I'm just tight on time or money, personally, I don't immediately just jump to those deep filters. Um,
Okay.
uh, some people do, and I think it's important that you guys know David does this at a high level. So if you do it, great, not a problem. I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to do it. You don't have to go really deep on your filtering. You could do no filter at all, or you could stack a couple of filters together. I'm fine with any of it. There's
Hmm.
sellers across all of them. There's buyers across all of them. I've had people that I called that there was no real estate in the family, no real estate in the estate, but they were inheriting cash and they were a buyer, or they were selling their
Oh,
personal residence. You don't know where the deals are. But when you get tight on time, either because you're busy or your pipeline is full and you're spending a lot of money and time on your pipeline, then it's okay to start filtering a lot of people out then.
that's perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It feels like more of like a black belt strategy. I'm more starting out, so I'll just revert to let's just call everybody and
Yeah. Cool.
get some experience. Yeah. See you tomorrow for foundations, Bruce. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
perfect. See you tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, and I don't know, I don't remember what your name is. So Jay, CL up in my left corner of my Zoom. What do you have?
Okay, great. Thanks for taking my call here. I'm
Yeah,
on a project here, so it's kind of a lot of stuff going on. But
not a problem.
uh, I called a couple weeks ago, and I was having a problem with the executor. He didn't want to sell the house, while the other two beneficiaries, they wanted to sell. So we finally got through that, and he agreed to sell, and he want to sell now, all of a sudden.
Great.
And so, I got the listing signed, and I have another business called IT Solutions for Probate, which I come in and clean the house out, remodel things that need to be fixed, me and some guys. And so I got both sides of that. And, so it's really like a really plus, not just the listing, but the other side.
You're doing it all.
I'm doing it all.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm excited about just the whole thing, and just trying to put my anchors in the ground and get more probates.
Good. Well, congratulations, and I wish more people would develop as you have time and resources. So that's definitely the thing. As you have time and resources, I wish more people would develop a strategy like you, where you build up some spin-off businesses that just fit perfect.
Yes.
A lot of folks just go get vendor relationships. I go get vendor relationships. I would rather not do the renovations and the clean outs and things like that. I'll just do that on vendors. But man, there's a huge opportunity there. And
Yeah.
Congratulations on setting it up.
Yeah. The first deal I did, I made more on the clean out and the cleanups than I did on the real estate.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting. They inherited the house on the first deal, and they don't want to come down here and mess with that house. So they gave me the key. I took the key and cleaned it out, fixed it up, and had it ready to go to market in about 10 days. And we sold it less than 30 days on a 1031 exchange. And
Awesome.
it was the perfect world. And they were happy. I was happy. And again, I learned something just from that transaction. There's a lot of money on this other side.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm still semi-young. So I got a guy right now. He's at the house painting and doing what I'm doing while I'm going getting the tacos. So
Nice. Good.
I'll come back with the tacos in the water.
Good. Well, I'm looking around the Zoom room and trying to figure out if I can remember who else runs a business comparable to that. And I'd say Kevin Rich is another one that has a semi-comparable. Has a family member that does the clean outs and the renovations, but they work together. So there's definitely a way to tie business in together. I was on a coaching call earlier today, and the person I was coaching is bringing in an estate sale company whose owner has a real estate license. And the owner of this estate sale company does not list very many properties, does not really pitch the real estate business, but just has a license. And so what are they doing? They're bringing her license in under them so that it can be presented as sort of a holistic thing. And I told them, I said, you should send business and not ask for anything in return. So we'll bring you estate sales. We don't want anything. But if you strike up a conversation with someone that we don't already have, you're going to get your referral fee or your cut. We'll put you as a co-list agent. So there's so many ways to incorporate these other needs into businesses or other businesses into your business.
Absolutely.
My concierge company, I don't own it. I partnered with a concierge company in my market, and I present them as I have a concierge company. And this is, and I'll bring the concierge, Sherry. This is Sherry. She's my concierge. We work as a team to handle everything. So she's going to make a note of everything that we can take off your plate, and I'm going to specifically look at the real estate. And so we present it kind of as a one-stop shop, even though we're two different businesses.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Yeah, it's good education here, so it's a lot to dig in and learn. So I appreciate this space here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And do me a favor, remind me what your first name is, because I can't remember.
Joe, I'm sorry.
Joe.
Every time it changes, for some reason, it changes back.
It keeps doing that, and I'll try to remember Joe for next time, but I probably won't.
I'll try to fix it for next time.
Yeah. So anyone that's on this call that feels as though we were discussing black belt level, as James mentioned a little bit ago, that's black belt level. I'm going to do white belt level. I want you guys to know that there's plenty of business at white belt level, at blue belt level, at purple belt level, at brown belt, at black belt. There's business at all of these, and you do not need to be highly sophisticated and complicated to start your business to get anything going. As a matter of fact, for most of us, there's more business development, more business growth, more money at the low level doing the basics. I have consciously made an effort to not show up talking about my jujitsu journey with you guys, but I've just because I get too geeked out over it and most people don't care. But I've been doing jujitsu for a couple of years just for my personal health, okay, and enjoyment. And everybody always says that a white belt or a blue belt is a black belt that just hasn't put in the time, and also just hasn't done the tiny little refinements. And the difference between the upper level people and the lower level people isn't that you don't have the knowledge at the lower level. It's just that you haven't made those little tweaks that match your style. And so some of the things that we talked about today did get a little bit advanced, and I don't want people feeling like, oh my God, I can't, it's going to be forever before I get any business because I'm not that advanced. Don't feel that way. Do the basic things where most of the business lies, and your conversion rates are going to go up. Your conversations are going to be better as you little by little add the tweaks to refine things and get a little bit more advanced. If you don't want to do novations and wholetailing like we started with, if you don't want to filter your list to begin with, don't worry about it. You guys are going to be just fine. That's one of the things that I see stops most people is they go, wow, Bruce, look at the things that you teach. It's going to take me forever to implement all that. Great. Don't implement it all. You go through Chad's version of the class. Chad's so smart. I'm not that smart. Great. You know, well, number one, you are, but number two, you don't have to be. Okay, there's a lot of opportunity at the lower levels, and the more time you're in it, the more you put yourself out there, the better you're going to get. With that said, I appreciate everybody. If you guys are watching this or you're here and you have not looked at getting certified, jump over on probatemastery.com. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you guys about that amazing certification course. It's 16 hours of content, and over the next couple of weeks, I'm adding even more to it. So if you want to go deep into probate and learn everything, jump into that. If anyone is interested in coaching, so if you're interested in the group coaching that we're rolling out, if anyone here has already been through coaching with me, you don't want to pay anything more. You've already done coaching. Our coaching program is going to apply. Anyone that's done coaching before is going to be grandfathered in. It's just sort of a repackaged product that we're putting out. If you haven't done coaching, it's going to be kind of 12-week group coaching plan where we develop and design and role play and add refinement into your business and your systems and your marketing. Over the course of 12 weeks. After the 12 weeks is over, it's still going to be open. You're going to be able to jump into the workshops and things. Average week will be about 2 workshops per week, all recorded. If you do want information on it, just go to probatemastery.com. And from Probate Mastery, I'm going to show you guys. From probatemastery.com, you are going to click on book a free discovery call or free coaching call. I'm just going to share my screen real quick for those listening on the podcast. Try to follow along verbally because I know you can't see the screen. So we're here on the homepage of Probate Mastery. We've got our certification courses here, and Take Probate Mastery here. And then there's a free strategy call with a coach. This will take you to Lou's calendar to go over what that plan might look like. Get a free coaching session, strategy session here. These are changing to discovery calls to kind of talk about group coaching, different things like that. If you're on a call with Lou to look at that and he says, hey, I think you need some time with Bruce, he'll put you on my calendar. And then all the way down at the bottom is a button. All these are going to all get you on Lou's calendar to either talk about getting a private call with me or jumping in the group. All the way down at the bottom is book a Mastery Academy discovery call. All of these will get you to the right place if you want to talk about maybe being part of the group coaching, the accountability that comes with it, the things that you're going to be taught, and not only taught, but you're going to build with us as coaches. So with that said, I will let you guys go for the week. You guys make it a great week. Go out, prospect, build your pipeline, and put some of the practices that we talked about together in your business. And I want to hear how you guys do next week. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.